Last year, although it isn't exactly the new cinema period, Spielberg's personal coming-of-age story, Meet the Fabelmans, arrived to a bunch of Oscars fanfare, as it detailed how Spielberg's interest in film was kindled, shaping so much of New Hollywood. It's hard to exactly call these period pieces, as it doesn't really feel like it's that different of a period, but technically I guess that's what they are. This year, Alexander Payne arrives back at the Oscars with his own 1970s coming-of-age drama, The Holdovers. Alexander Payne basically commissioned this film from the screenwriter David Hemingson.
At this prep school, I call it, the name of the pilot, Stonehaven. And it was very much the story of like me going to the school. My father, my parents had divorced and I was kind of estranged from my dad. He was teaching there, and it was sort of like, and then my uncle, who sort of had become my de facto father, this sort of troika of people, that were influencing me. And Alexander got a hold of it and had been thinking about this idea for about a dozen years about a prep school over Christmas, and called me up out of the blue. I almost hung up on him because I thought someone was bullshitting me.
David Hemingson has mostly done TV production and writing. His most prominent TV projects have been Don't Trust the Bitch in Apartment 23 and Whiskey Cavalier. Payne read Hemingson's TV pilot about his time in boarding school and asked him to write it into a screenplay.
Pick up the phone. David Hemingson, Alexander Payne. And I was about to say, fuck you, Bob, and hang up. And then I saw the Omaha area code, and I was like, oh, is this really Alexander Payne? He's like, yeah, no. And he said, I read your TV pilot, I loved it. I thought, okay, great, he's gonna make my pilot. Immediately said, I don't want to make your pilot, but I would love it if you wrote a movie for me in the same world.
We've talked about another school-related Alexander Payne film, Election, a 1999 black comedy that pitted Reese Witherspoon as an overachieving little know-it-all against Matthew Broderick, a social studies teacher who holds a latent sadomasochistic psychological grudge against his student and tries to sabotage her run for student government president in a fit of resentment, blowing up his own life and teaching career in the process.
Tracy, you're a very intelligent girl. You have a lot of admirable qualities. But one day maybe you'll learn that being smart and doing whatever you need to do to get ahead, and yes, stepping on other people to get there, well, there's a whole lot more to life than that.
The Holdovers stars Paul Giamatti in a role that's been highly praised going into award season, including the Critics' Choice Award for Best Actor, which also scored us a great picture of Paul Giamatti getting In-N-Out Burger after his big win. Paul Giamatti previously starred alongside Thomas Hayden Church in Alexander Payne's 2004 adaptation, Sideways.
It's a hard grape to grow, as you know, right? It's thin-skinned, temperamental, ripens early. It's not a survivor like Cabernet, which can just grow anywhere and thrive even when it's neglected. No, Pinot needs constant care and attention.
Where he played a depressed teacher and unsuccessful writer named Miles Raymond, who goes on a road trip with his actor friend Jack Cole. In The Holdovers, Paul Giamatti plays another teacher, an alcoholic ancient civ teacher at a boarding school, Barton, for boys. Namely a prep school for the kind of rich boys whose parents have titles like senator or who can charter a helicopter.
Are we really supposed to let these boys just skate by as long as Daddy builds a new gymnasium? Of course not. That's not who we are. But we can't be ignorant of politics.
This is also the school that Paul Giamatti's Paul Hunnam went to on a scholarship. He's been at Barton forever, and in fact never leaves the campus. This makes him prey for other professors like Mr. Endicott who do have lives off campus. Every year, one staff member is forced to stay with the holdovers, the kids who can't go home.
There'll be just 4 boys holding over this year. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, I know a couple of these reprobates. Let's be a little more. How long were you married?
I was engaged to Curtis's father, but he died before I gave birth. He worked in the shipyard, and one day they was carrying this big cargo pallet, and the cable snapped.
Mary took this job to get her now deceased son free tuition, but since he couldn't afford college, he got drafted into the military.
I'm so sorry.
I took this job when Curtis was small because I wanted to ensure that he was going to have a good education. You know, he flourished here.
Yes. No, he was a great kid. I had him one semester. Very insightful.
He hated you.
And after good fortune takes the other 4 kids on a ski trip, the last holdover, Angus Tully, played by Dominic Sessa. Angus Tully's mom and his new stepdad leave him behind so they can go on their honeymoon in St. Kitts. Angus Tully is very bright, but has a huge discipline problem, something that enrages the traditional and uptight Paul Hunnam on a regular basis. A lesser film would probably pit Tully and Hunnam against each other, turning this unfortunate situation into The Breakfast Club. And in one of the best sequences in the film, it does lull you into thinking exactly that. Paul Hunnam chases Angus Tully throughout the school yelling about detention.
You just earned yourself detention, sir. Now get back here. Being here with you is already one big fucking detention. Son of a bitch, that's another detention.
But that's not what the holdovers wants to do. You could also see the film going the way of Superbad or any number of early 2000s coming-of-age comedies where adults inappropriately allow kids to tag along as they party and drink their way through the holiday madness. And it does have a bit of that, too. Paul Hunnam even reluctantly brings Angus Tully and Mary to a holiday party. There's even a fart joke snuck quickly in there. But that's not what the holdovers is trying to achieve. The film sets out to show Paul Hunnam that education is more than just discipline, and that students, especially teenagers, are really just small adults with adult problems and feelings, and not just clay to be molded into a rigid shape and tolerated. Of course, the great irony here is that Paul Hunnam is more emotionally stunted than anyone. His vision of what a teacher is supposed to be is shaped by other teachers, and he's forever living on his boyhood campus, afraid to start a real life. Boarding school relationships are interesting to explore. Wealthy parents feel entitled to control their children's lives while essentially farming them out to strangers. There's a certain amount of ambiguity there, as these teachers and faculty are given all the responsibility of a guardian without any of the control or power outside of academic discipline. Mary and Angus Tully are each dealing with their own things that are also holding them back. The result is perfectly calibrated for someone like Alexander Payne, who relishes these emotional, character-driven, sometimes road trip-driven stories.
I suppose we could call it a field trip. Field trips would fall under the ambit of additional academic pursuits. There's even a fund set aside for additional academic pursuits. I'll go pack.
Tonight's show is brought to you by Yabiga. A Balkan Rakia spirit, go to yabiga.com to order a bottle tonight. Anyway, before I introduce the panel, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Hit that bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live stream, send us a super chat, which helps me keep the show running, and which I am obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are on there forever. We also have a new Discord and a Letterboxd HQ account, so those are 2 more places to follow along with us. Links are in the description. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Conan Neutron, host of Protonic Reversal, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, and frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends has a new split LP with Lung, Adult Prom, available now on Bandcamp. Kristina Oakes is streaming on Twitch at Cosmopolitics, twitch.tv/Cosmopolitics. Also recently joined YouTube, she's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Cosmopolitics. Send her some subs on Twitch, and send her a coffee. This month for the Oscars, Conan and Kristina are co-producers. We will have both show and after-party content that they've produced, so follow along. In the Discord, as well as watch parties on Mondays in the Discord. Eileen Jones, the host of the Film Suck podcast, the author of Film Suck USA, and a film critic at Jacobin, as well as a former UC Berkeley professor in the Department of Film and Media. I, of course, am your host who's drunk at 11 a.m. because it's cold in the school, Forrest Miller. Paul wasn't even supposed to be here today.
Well bowled. Fantastic. Welcome back, Eileen.
No, thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Much
Especially
shorter
with
turnover
Holdovers.
time since last time. Since
Yeah,
we
last
decided
time
on.
it was like what, like 6 months or a year? And
Yeah, and then it was like 1 month, and then
And now I'm back again. I know. What was that? That's weird.
But of course, happy to have you on for the Holdovers, which as we canonically established, my favorite film of the year, right?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And
Absolutely.
you also have a correct opinion towards it. So of course you get on.
I got thoughts of my own that might be quite controversial.
I know what they are.
Oh, looking forward.
But you're like, Barbie's not even in this one.
No, it's just
Oh, here we go. All right.
watching it. I felt like I've seen this movie before because of the common trope of some adult, some grumpy adult, grumpy, frumpy, clergyman adult is stuck with some kid who is a pain in the ass. They become a big softy for the kid, and then they form this bond. And I'm like, I've seen this movie a bunch of times, but in my opinion, this film actually does the trope justice
because it doesn't do it the way you think it's gonna at
Yeah.
all. In fact, you're like,
the
oh, it's
first
not.
thing is you're like, I totally know what this movie's going to be, right?
Yeah.
And then you
absolutely.
go in, and he finds so many permutations and so many little amazing surprises that he explodes within it, that it transcends what you think you know.
It also it teases. I feel like it teases all these different kinds of movies that are like that, right? Like it teases you with the Breakfast Club kind of thing, where he's like detention, and he does the exact like assistant principal
Another one.
where he chases him through the school, and then obviously like he breaks his arm or dislocates his arm, which like his body is weird as fuck. But
And by the way, I don't like
very
laughing at
spoilery.
people's misfortune, but not since Jackass has I seen somebody break something and have it be so hilarious.
And so they go through that, right? And then there's like almost like the super bad kind of thing where it's like bringing like a kid that shouldn't be at a party with like drinking at the party, but then it her breakdown kind of takes you out of that, and like it takes you down all of these different avenues that you're like, yeah, I've definitely I've seen a movie that does this, and then it's like, oh no, this is doing so, this is transcending that through just being such a wholesome, sweet movie, which I feel like Misanthropic Guy over the holidays that gets it takes you all the way back to like Dickensian kind of stuff, right? Like
It's like
takes
how
you
the
back
Grinch
to-
stole Christmas, because in a way he kind of does steal Christmas, but gives it back to the kid.
But it does things in such a unique way, and that is so key to understanding this, because I know people that just assumed it was a much less intelligent and interesting movie. That I know what that is. I'm like, well, I know you think you know what that is. And it's really about sad people helping each other ultimately. But it's not like everyone gets the hey, you're cured now, you're a happy, fulfilled person now. Not really. And that's what makes it kind of grounded in reality.
He's still young.
Yeah, well, Dominic says it's probably okay, but
well,
No, but doesn't it seem shocking when you're watching? To me, it was. I mean, it really. It also is harking back to, of course, very explicitly a whole world of 1970s films where you're immediately going, what have I seen before besides Harold and Maude, which is obvious.
Right.
That is, it's evoking, where it's like one human being can do something to intercede in the life of another human being, which even saying that sounds so old-fashioned. It seems older than Dickens. And yet somehow he's making you believe it again. There are small intercessions that could happen that could save a life potentially.
And I feel like some of that is the fact that this is a first-time screenwriter. I mean, he did Whiskey Cavalier, I guess, and he did Don't Trust the Bitch in Apartment 23. He's been the showrunner on if you look down, he's even been he was even a producer on Family Guy for a little bit. The guy that wrote it. That's how far into it's like every show when you go down.
I mean, it's pretty quippy, right?
Yeah.
There's some great quips in this, so it makes sense that he would have something to do with a show that's really plot nothing. It's all just quips and references is what that show is.
Yeah.
So I mean, it makes sense, right? That would be because it's a very smart script, and one of the things I love is that Giamatti's character. Who, Forrest, you're the one that pointed out that today, oh yeah, the dude has Asperger's, right?
Yeah.
But Forrest would be the first one to say this.
But like there's so many like small scenes, like when he's at the bar and like the dude's in the dude's in there in the Santa suit is like, oh well, actually, you know,
I love those
the suit
moments.
you're wearing is not, and it's like, oh my god, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? Stop
are you
immediately.
Yeah, why?
And he's like, that's why they call it punitive, you know?
Right? Yeah, and
He's
it's
so
like
pleased and happy.
and he's definitely like, got him. You know, it's like, no, you didn't. You did not, in fact, get them at all.
He doesn't even know that he's in a thing that you could have gotten him in. Like, you just turn into a random guy. But it's also whenever he's bored, right? Whenever he's bored, he returns and he's like interacting with strangers. He goes right back to his hyperfixation, which is just like ancient Civ, pretty much. And
well, and for me though, you know, even though I'm not ancient,
Limitations.
these are my people. This is why I loved it so much. These I know oddball people who have oddball fixations. These are my friends, and so it's just for me. This is like I'm back on wholesome territory where I understand. I understand this person even while he's a social outcast. Why he can't bridge the gap. But these are my people. So I just felt at home from like second one in this movie, and I sat there through the whole movie going, "Why am I thinking this is working so well?" From the first image and the first note of music on, it was really a shocking experience. I don't know why, especially from Alexander Payne.
It kind of reminds me of my friends who were very much into anime and manga, and I was the friend who wasn't.
Right, and they want to tell you all about it, and you're like, I don't care about this information.
I'm like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Like so, first, like Marcus Aurelius, right? Like his whole like Marcus Aurelius thing, and like you like it's what is it? It's the Quran, the Bible.
Yeah,
whatever,
he's got 9,000
one.
copies of the book,
and it's the best part, not one mention of God, and it's like that's every like professional atheist you've ever met in your life.
Yeah.
There's also
it's like they can't wait to tell you. They can't wait to drop that last line. It's like
there's something in like when you're a kid and you're in school, right? And you have like these teachers, like you assume that the teacher is always at the school and always like trying to teach you something, right? Like you have no deeper interaction with.
They live there, right?
But then you see them like at the grocery store, and you're like.
Yeah,
but this is like what if the teacher actually?
But what if it actually was true? What if he really did never leave the school, right? And then
And he lived there, and he took his meals there, and over time, as he got more and more uncomfortable with anyone that wasn't like a student in like this boys' home or this boys' boarding school, like a wealthy boys' but like as he got more and more used to that, he just found less and less reasons to leave, and until he really is like the stereotypical like. No, he doesn't leave the school. Like he's at the school. Like he might go get groceries, but even then he's like walking around trying to tell people about like ancient civilization
information that they don't care about. Yeah, exactly.
I think they'll make a sequel called The Holdovers, but make it feminist, an all-female version.
That's right. I can imagine.
But I think it's well, you could totally do the Muppet thing, right? Like Holdovers, but only Paul Giamatti is human, everyone else is a Muppet. Great, I'm in. I am all in.
Or you could do that with only Divine Joy Randolph.
That works also.
Is human.
Yes. So one of the things that elevates it for me as a film is her story. That's that story, and again, you kind of. When you're someone who watches a lot of movies, right?
That's part of the whole film, if you ask me.
Yeah, you tend to like assume certain things. I know what this is going to be. We're doing this thing. All right, and it doesn't mean you like don't immediately enjoy it. Sometimes that's true, but like her arc and her whole story is much more interesting than like you think it's going to be, and it's awesome because she is a really wonderful actress that has been in kind of like supporting character. Like I mentioned that like the Sandra Bullock vehicle that's like We Have Romancing the Stone at Home that came out last year. Like she's in that, and like she's memorable in that. I forgot until the show was that she was in Dolomite Is My Name, and she's fantastic in it. And like to see a role for a woman, especially a woman of color, who looks like an actual regular human being. She doesn't have like, model physique or anything along those lines, right?
I will say those eyebrows are totally not from the 70s, though.
She was ahead of her time.
I was like, oh, those are like my brows.
But like to get like a character, like all these characters have nuance, right? Even like, a curmudgeon with a heart of gold. All right. Yeah, but not really. Like he's actually kind of an a-hole.
It takes him a while to get to that heart of gold.
And then when you find out why, it's like,
Heart
oh no.
3 sizes.
Right, exactly.
For anyone who has working class resentment, if this is the film for you.
100%, right? Because you don't think it's gonna go that way, and you're like, oh. And that scene, Forrest, that you put in the intro in the liquor store was like you It's like, no, I got exposed because I hit him. Oh, you were fighting? No, I hit him with my car.
Yeah. He's
Good
like,
for
Eddie
him.
put us up. Yo, my favorite line of the whole thing, and
So
I cracked
good.
up so much when we were watching it as like in our Discord thing yesterday, because I like thought about the line again. He was when he hands him the liquor bottle and he goes, "There you go, killer."
Killer.
Yeah. And they're like,
Yeah, that's
Everybody
beautiful.
in this movie that's not one of the core characters, or like that isn't given like that level of emotional
gives a good
intelligence,
one line.
Right.
is literally just like a Ben Affleck, Matt Damon character or something, like with that level
Yeah.
of like county
Like that-
accent.
Yeah.
Like the glorified cameo in their films of one of them.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like,
I will say the
whatever
dad does a
guy
good
that tried
job.
to-
The guy that
with
Oh, the dad is great.
Yeah.
What's his name? I've forgotten his name
I
already.
can't remember.
He was
all,
wonderful.
but
I forgot that Hercules is the stepdad.
Oh, right.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Right.
They have the guy with the hook, and he's like, "Oh, let's play like with my left hand." Like he makes that joke.
Yeah.
He's like, "I could be your left hand," and the guy gets really mad. Like, that guy is just an extra from Good Will Hunting, pretty much. He seems like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Well, even then, like when there's that sort of fraught, like, oh, is it gonna go down now? Then, like, even then, Giamatti's character like just can't stop himself. Well, I can purchase you a beverage to imbibe. Where it's like, dude, stop, just stop. Like you're not at the Ren Fair right now, bro. Like, back it off.
That's his most endearing characteristic. It's the only reason you can even partly believe he could make it after the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Is because he's unquenchable. I mean, here he is, this moth-eaten pedant, and everyone hates him. His students, his faculty peers. There's no
boss. Yeah.
except Miss Lydia, who's so lovely. She could love anyone.
Yeah.
That he's utterly. You cannot keep this guy suppressed. You can't. I just love it.
And I love that they add the details like, oh, Eddie smells like fish.
And he smells like
Right, yeah. And it gets worse as the day goes on. Great.
And he has to explain why he smells like fish. And I'm like,
Well,
is that a real thing or is you just don't shower?
That was one of the two things that I looked up. I was like, is Paul Giamatti odd-eyed? Is one of them, because he was so convincing with it. And then the other thing was like that whatever the fish thing. But no, it's almost like Ignatius Riley from Confederacy of Dunces level. Just like, Jesus Christ, dude, stop. Just stop. John Fonte's books are full of characters like that too, where it's just like, oh my, just please. Like nowadays we would just say Curb Your Enthusiasm, right? So I'm gonna throw in the literary reference.
And I feel like there's something in this movie about emotional intelligence is really what it's about on a core level.
Yeah.
Because his emotional intelligence, he's very he's very intelligent, but his emotional intelligence stopped when he got kicked out of Harvard. Like, he hit the kid with his car. He never progressed past that place. And he found a place where he didn't have to progress past that place. So he just didn't. And then, you have Divine Joy Randolph's character, like Mary, and she's incredibly emotionally intelligent, even if she's not like book smart, right? Like, like her whole life has been struggle, and she's gotten to a place of like such compassion and such like the ability to find joy even in these destructive situations. And then you have Dominic Sessa, and he could probably go either way. He's very empathetic as a kid, but but also has the same kind of like problems that can lead to the kind of trauma that that his fucking professor has. Like,
why not have him play Bob Dylan? Why does it have to be Timothy Chalamet?
I can't believe
that would be great.
This is his first movie, Cessna, right?
It is. It's the most incredible debut in a long
I
time.
feel like I've seen him before, but he's never been.
He beat out 800 kids.
Yeah,
I believe it, man. Like he's good, and like
so good.
Represent.
Well,
And the way he can start off seeing like a smarmy sumbitch, just like his peers at the beginning, only a little smarter, and then bring you all the way around is really an accomplishment. Because at first he's just got that pasty Weasley face, and he's being an ass, just like everybody else. And you're just like, he's a hateful rich kid.
And that kind of ass that, like, I mean, I remember being like
great
a kid
Dylan.
enough that,
You're right.
Good point.
I remember like being a kid enough to like remember that kind of person that's like, like they're stopping these like, that's because of your mom, and it's like, it's like this put upon affectation, but like of being a smart ass. You're like, this kid's trying real hard to be a smart ass. I have a thing from the SAG panel.
Real quick, the biggest snub for supporting for a young actor is of course Charles Melton for Made of
I
Sound.
know. That
But
sucked.
Dominic Sessa, not that far off, if you ask me. He was very impressed, especially like I just assumed, this kid must have been like a million things I'd never seen. Nope.
Yeah. Exactly.
He was
I thought
impressive.
He was actually a Deerfield senior at the school they were filming at. Alexander Payne found a kid that was just like, matched the description. And was like,
It
hey,
looked like a young Bob
movie?
Dylan, right? And
Wow.
Which is the same thing he did with with the kid in Election.
Yes.
That, ended up being in American Pie and all those things.
Chris Klein.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah,
He's great.
okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to say Chris Klein, but there's so many Chris's that I could.
I know. There's a million, but yeah, Chris
Fine,
Klein.
Pratt.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is him on the SAG panel when they were interviewing everybody.
Kristina, stop naming Chris's.
Oh, I'm so glad. And Dominic, I'd like to start with you as our resident newcomer. Is it true that you beat out 800 actors for this role? I read that figure in the New Yorker and I thought, that doesn't seem possible, but I actually do believe it.
That's what they say. I guess that's the number that's been going around. Yeah. I mean,
that must feel surreal.
Yeah, I think that was all before they had come across me. Like I wasn't a part of that initial wave of auditions.
Right.
I think he wasn't happy with those and then came elsewhere, like went to the schools to find some options. But yeah, it's I don't know. I can't wrap my head around that. But
that is a lot. But
yeah.
I was curious, Susan Shopmaker, of course, the wonderful casting director, and Alexander both loved what you brought to the table for this role. And I was curious, what is it that you think you did bring to this part that set you apart from others? I know it's hard to look at yourself, objectively, but now that the project is over and you've seen how it's been received, can you now relate to why they connected so deeply with you?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I know my hair was a big component.
I was going to say, if you came packaged that way, that probably helped, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it came down to a big part of it was ultimately, I think when I was able to read some things with Paul, I think that things, became more clear and made more sense. I mean, at least, maybe even if not for Alexander at that point, for me, I finally felt like I was able to kind of take this on and really see myself doing it with these other actors. But to answer your question, I mean, I don't know. I think that's, I know Alexander really takes his time and care in the casting process. I know he weighs heavily like the success of a movie on how well it's casted. So, I think he's one of the few people out there who has the ability to see something in, a nobody like me just out of high school and sees that I can do something like this. So it's really a credit to him.
Well, I remember a similar story with Chris Klein in Election. I think he discovered Chris in a weight room at a college, and that performance reminds me of yours. There's something so just so natural and organic and sort of unspoiled about it, and I think it's such a great reference. Yeah,
a lot of the performances too. I mean, even like the liquor store, that guy was working here. He's always.
I love that guy.
He's really great about taking these real people and making them shine on screen.
Yeah, well, he did that with you. You seem very real in the few moments that I've known you. To what degree did you relate to Angus? Obviously, we are not the characters we play, but was there aspects of him that felt fresh to you? You're sort of not too far from his age, and he's dealing with a lot of angst and the future and family. Did that feel familiar to you, or do you feel like you were able to access it, even though maybe it's not your present state of mind?
Totally. I mean, well, I think there's a. We're very different people, me and this character. I think how we existed in high school as well. I had a very different experience. I think I had a lot more friends and I was more involved in things. Like I was a performer in high school. I was doing theaters.
So that was probably a good outlet for your angst. I'm assuming.
Totally. Yeah. Right. I'm maybe festering as much as this kid did.
Right.
However, I think what really helped me connect with this kid was just his, I don't know, his need and desire for direction and someone to help him find that direction. And when I think about when I was auditioning for this film at that time, my senior year, I was really trying to figure out what I wanted to do in college and just, I guess, some ideas about what I wanted to do with my life. And acting was the only thing that I was really, really passionate about at the time. And it really took this film, I guess, to give me the confidence to pursue that and feel like maybe I can be successful with this. So I think Angus kind of faces a lot of the similar things you see where, and you get hints of it where, one of the students, like I'm supposed to go to Cornell and like a lot of these kids kind of have it planned out what they're supposed to do. But, Angus doesn't have that clarity, I guess, at this point, like a lot of the other kids do. And I felt maybe similar to that when I was in high school.
Oh, sure. I think most of us did.
Totally.
I don't think most of us had that all planned out.
Right.
I have to say one of my favorite scenes is that beautiful moment where your bunkmate has had the accident in the bed. Such a sweet kid. Wow, what a great little actor he is.
Yeah.
And I was so curious, just from a storytelling perspective, just the addition of that scene, what do you think that brought to our understanding of Angus? Like what import did that scene have for you in understanding who this guy is? Because clearly he cares about people. When you think about that scene, we didn't need it in the narrative, but I continue to think about it as being very illuminating of who he is. So tell me what you think a moment like that brought to your understanding of him.
Yeah, I think that moment in particular really kind of reveals the level of emotional intelligence I think that Angus has. And, one of the big things I love about the character and why I was really excited to play it is because he's able to connect with these older people, a teacher at the school and a cook at the school who have very different lives and experiences and all those things. He's able to connect with them on a deeply emotional level. And I think that scene was important to really show that he's able to connect on that level.
I guess he was like into hockey. Like he was going to be like a professional hockey player. And then he had a bad accident, like broke one of his bones. So he was like, I guess I'll give drama a try.
Oh,
and
naturally. That's a natural segue.
Yeah.
Or you want to be a musician, then you suddenly become a lawyer. And so many actors have like law degrees, but like they never became full-fledged lawyers.
Never do anything with it. Yeah.
I'm like, what is this trend of actors trying for a sport or this? And then they're like, I'm just gonna act instead, and then they become huge stars.
What is being a lawyer if not acting in a court?
Maybe less so hockey. I don't know.
Maybe less obvious segue.
Yeah, but like that's pretty like whatever. I know I overused the sliding doors analogy, but it's a very sliding doors situation.
I feel like that lady was being kind of condescending to him because he's
You seem really real. I mean, what do you even say?
Yeah, thanks.
It's his first film, of course.
So liquor store guy though, that they was just the guy that owns the liquor store.
The liquor store. That's pretty inspired.
So they drove around looking for like a place to film that scene, I guess, and they found like a liquor store in Boston, because they're like filming throughout there's so many like really cool locations in this. They filmed like I guess they really went to like both Deerfield Academy and the academy that FDR went to, Groton. So they filmed part of this at Groton on the outside, and they filmed it at Deerfield or something, and they actually used like campus buildings, which I think they do quick shoots though. Yeah. I mean, all the atmospherics are so nicely nailed down that's one of the pleasures of the film. As soon as you see the snowscapes and the types of buildings and all this stuff, and I remember admiring even the cars look period correct in that they're dirty and they're slightly older perhaps than the year. They're not making that mistake that sometimes directors are forced into. You get
I don't know. IMDb might have something to say about that.
Oh yeah. Oh well, I don't know enough about cars. Perhaps I'm wrong. But
I know, but like they always be like, well, actually, this is not the right model car that would be in this 1971. And I'm like, oh my god,
I just noticed how dirty and beat up and used they look instead of like you got all the people who own vintage cars and they're insisting they be pristine. It's a real problem.
Right, they're never going to be pristine looking. By the way, I just want to say, whatever Andy's doing right now, he's probably like getting like a twinge in his eye with all this talk about Massachusetts and him not being able to be here and talk endlessly about Massachusetts. Thank you, Andy. We love you. No, I mean it's all practical locations, right? No sets or sound stages, so it's like it gives a different feel, and it has that. Like I've used Hal Ashby as an analogy as well, but like again in that grand 70s tradition, like being there, right? Like another example of a movie that looks very like people call it lived in. It's like, well, because people actually live in these places. That's why it looks lived in.
Yeah, and I even like the muted smaller scale is such a relief. I didn't even realize it until I was like, why am I so happy? And part of it was it had none of the pumped up grandiosity of like so many films now, even films that don't deserve it. Everything has got to be larger, bigger, more epic, more work done, more this, more that. And this was just like, no, we're bringing the whole scale down, not in a cutesy way, not in a pandering way, but in a very straightforward way that was just a relief to the mind and eye. That was
and even further because they have them stay in the infirmary, right? Like a place that human beings are not really meant to stay in.
Meant to stay in the infirmary. Yeah.
I mean, you know, besides like the ones with like bones sticking out of their body or whatever.
Yeah. And they're watching the dating game in multiple scenes.
Oh, and his commentary on that is so great too. Because he's just like obviously just completely unfamiliar because it doesn't feature Marcus Aurelius or anything. You know, so like, he doesn't know what it is.
He has no idea. But it was really ubiquitous at a certain point in time. It was on screens everywhere, but it was such a stupid nothing show. So to have this attention paid.
They picked a really good episode of the dating game too, because like, or at least one of them they did. It was like that goofy looking guy, and they're like, "What's your favorite, your favorite silent movie star?" And he's like, "Stan Laurel." And then he's like, "Nope, Rudolph Valentino." And like, you have to imagine that guy sees himself as like the Rudolph Valentino.
Sure,
like, like, you look a lot more like the Stan Laurel kind of.
Yes.
You know that. Strange enough, that reminds me because of the watch party Kristina hosted on our Discord on Monday, which is a thing we regularly do. And also what Eileen was saying, that like the opening credits, like they play out so long in that kind of stylized way, right? Where it's like, oh, credits are still going, huh? And
It's like 10 minutes.
And that is such a 70s thing.
Such a 70s thing.
And the only movie I can think of that really did that recently was Old Man the Gun, the Redford movie where he's like the aging bank robber with Sissy Spacek, which is good. It's a good movie. But like, it's clearly like the 70s vibes are, they're you know, it's not an accident. They're doing the things that like are, but like in a way that is like direct slap in the face of the people. They're like, well, they don't make them like that anymore. Well, they do. Except for that they do. We just made one. It looks like this.
Yeah, I also like the thing they do where they switch between the songs in the opening credits. So they start off and you see the car driving. They're doing like the crying, laughing, whatever, like that song, and then they switch to like the Christmas Carol thing, which it's like a perfect representation of like what a lot of the music and what a lot of the aesthetics in this are going to be.
Because it is a Christmas movie, believe it or not.
Which is between being a Christmas movie and this kind of folk rock, kind of indie rock, kind of 70s aesthetic.
Well, like what would Harold and Maude be without Cat Stevens? Right? I mean, it'd still be a great movie, but like the Cat Stevens songs are so intrinsically part of it, and I think it's evoking that as well. I think it's funny. Alexander Payne like hates it being called a Christmas movie, and he hopes it just stands on its own. Yeah, no.
Oh well, dude, you filmed it for Christmas time.
It's like, well,
categorized.
We said it at Christmas, and I say that as someone that. Generally, I don't care about Christmas and don't like Christmas movies. It's like, okay, but it's a Christmas movie. It stands on its own.
Yes.
As its own movie, which is fine. The best movies usually do, right?
It's going to be a future Christmas classic. Alexander Payne.
Oh no, deal exactly.
Well, no, the reason people don't want their movies called a Christmas movie is because then people only watch it at Christmas.
I guess so, sure.
Yeah, and they feel like
watch Die Hard whenever. Like
he said, he finds that label nauseating. By the way, which is a great quote.
Oh wow.
Then he shouldn't have set a movie over Christmas. Like
exactly. That's silly.
He was apparently thinking about this movie for 12 years or something, like an idea like this.
Yeah,
and it's like never in that time did you think maybe we should pick Easter Vacation?
Well, because it makes sense with the kid being left behind, right? Like why would they even be in the situation?
Again,
there wouldn't
Christmas. Think about it, Alexander Payne.
No, you can't rely on the emotional intensity of Christmas and then disavow the Christmas. That's he's just trying to be too cool for school, which is a bad luck, Alexander.
I do think it's amazing that the Paul Giamatti's Odd Eye, that was like a gag that he pulled on Dominic Cessna. They're like, no, let's just stick with that. Because for me, it's like so intrinsic to the character that it's
totally.
This goofy looking dude.
Contact for it too that he couldn't see.
And it started off as a prank. He they did like some like line reading and where it wouldn't show, and like he did it like crack Cessna up, which is amazing. And then they're like, no, actually, why don't you just stick with that? That's working.
It's like another thing with the my Asperger's point that I made about him. Now they have I had like a little bit of lazy eye as a kid, and I had to go they do exercises. So
wear a patch. I had to wear a patch on my eye for the longest time.
Wow. So now they have exercises, and now I feel like with kids having all these colognes and stuff, I feel like a lot of the problems and they are definitely problems that somebody would have, but I feel like there's help that somebody like that could get now, in the 21st century that they probably couldn't have when that guy was a kid. So it's like this guy is kind of stuck almost in a time capsule. Both with his obsession with ancient Civ, but also just the fact that he never got help for some of these problems, because back then you would just be seen as kind of like an odd duck, right? Like an odd.
You're just weird.
And
that they all call him Walleye without, there's no.
Yeah, if he had if he had been born in sometimes during the early 1910s, he probably would have been institutionalized.
See, I don't know. I don't think he's
for
that
being weird.
Well, yeah.
I don't think he's that far. I don't think he's that far gone. But he's just one of those people that are like eccentric enough that they're not going to be shoved into like a situation where like they're in front of all these people. I think that people like that probably were working at like boarding schools and stuff like that. At this time, because it's just they find kind of off, outside of the public eye places for you to work.
Well, and it makes sense because there's that whole exchange about how you're not your father, right? And then he like it's like the one time he really like kind of like talks about that like, and the key line is I'm not my dad no matter how hard he tried to beat that idea into me, right? And because he was not just charitably not like cut from the same cloth as his academic son, and he hated him for it, and so because of that. Like he turned out the way that he did, right? And like what's he, erratic, belligerent, and a gigantic pain in the balls is what he's. I mean, it's if you're into like snappy dialogue and like sharp humor, there's moments of incredible poignancy to the script, but it's also very, very funny at the same time, and oftentimes maybe in the same sentence, which is kind of hard to pull off for like what has developed into modern cinema, and everyone describes it to Marvel movies, but it's been on the decline for a long time. Where it's just
Madam Web coming through though.
Yeah, right. That'll sort it all out.
I always am struggling with like how often like comedy like goes into drama. Like you can't continue with the comedy, and that people have a real problem. Which seems astonishing to me, taking comedy seriously if it isn't in some big way moving toward drama in a big ostentatious way.
Right.
This just easy way this combines the two and manages to keep them both going.
It's the wit.
And that goes back to I watched Sullivan's Travels not that long ago, and like that dude was like lighting them up in the script in like 1941 about that same thing, and it was like, oh my god, so literally nothing has changed since 1941. That like, you can have comedic parts, but if it's a straight comedy, it just basically will not be taken seriously ever.
Yeah.
Even though that's what people are like, if they're looking for a relief from the world, they're not going to be looking for zone of interest,
Yeah, that movie's still around, right?
To the Manhasset Theater. I was thinking about going to see it.
Right. Lighting things up with some Holocaust porn. Great.
That's my issue with it.
Well, so
Peace
one
and
of
love,
the things I found interesting that I saw Alexander Payne say is that when he has these like overly dramatic roles that he writes or that somebody writes for one of his movies, he likes to cast someone that he found in a comedy. Like he likes to cast a comedic actor. So like
because they can do drama really well. Like we talked a lot about that with Better
Look
Call
at some
Saul
of the SNL cast members who've moved to do dramas now.
Like the fact that people are like, "Oh, Bob Odenkirk's a comedian." It's like, yes, he was. Yes, yeah. Oh my God, don't even start with me. But like, there is the ability. I think it's easier for comedians, especially good ones, to do drama than it is the other way around, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and there's such a good way that they handle like the big emotional stuff. Like when Divine Joy Randolph's character Mary Lamb finally has her big emotional breakdown. The one way to lead into it through the comedy is someone tries to take over control of the record player.
That's right.
From her. And she's just like, fucking back off.
Like, do not fucking touch that record player.
Do not fucking touch it. Because, but of course it's embedded in it. Her son had unlikely taste. She's playing these tributes to her son. And then she's going to have a very unusual, like, emotional breakdown. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. And it was very well written, I thought, where she just like, back off. Don't come near me. Don't touch me. And they all have to stand in a sympathetic ring around her, not knowing what to do. And that was like, that was really astute.
Right.
Well, and it's kind of added to the intensity, I think, of the moment where she really does snap. That there's the guy from her job that's like the janitor that gives
he's
her.
He's got
like,
the hots for her.
And he's clearly got a crush on her, and it's not.
He's got a crush on her, but clearly isn't ready for her. Because she keeps it together so well at school. Like he's not ready for her level of trauma that she's been through.
She's the actual human. That's not a coworker.
He's being a gentleman,
Right.
He's keeping the distance. He's keeping those boundaries. Like, and we all want a guy like that.
Buys a lavish present and then basically is like, well, I don't have anything else to spend money on, which is like, wow.
Yeah.
Like
it was very Yeah, it was still very discreetly handled, like nothing hammered on too hard, which was so nice to see. Not worried that you're gonna get it all. I mean, it's just that there's none of that stupid.
And nobody, even though I was thinking it, and when they were listening to Glenn Campbell or whatever, it was like, "White people, am I right?" for the music, or nobody was doing like because. It's like, yeah, you don't need to be saying
don't
those.
fucking touch that radio.
Smooth jazz.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's
we also
settle
talk
down and listen
about-
to some marches. Anyway, go ahead.
We talk about the pace of the film because usually any kind of slow pace drives me mad, but I love the pace here, and sometimes it is quite slow. It's very 70s in a way.
That was kind of my thing. I was like, okay, it's going a little slow.
Did it seem
and
too
then,
slow
and
to
then
you?
moments just happen like that.
Yeah.
And then it gets a little slow again, and then another moment just happens like that. And I'm like, okay, cool. It's gonna be like this.
I think
methodical.
One moment that does a really good job when it is starting to get a little bit of slow, like a little bit slow, and I think they realize that is when he breaks his arm or dislocates his arm. I feel like that moment is really because at some point, like it's like, all right, this is a 2 hour and 13-minute movie. How far can you really go with this guy's a pain in the ass and his teacher's a pain in the ass, and they're driving each other a little bit crazy.
Yeah, we get
and
it.
Now there's no
It's
more.
The Shining with
there.
jokes. We get it.
Yeah, well, and it's like now there's no more students there to kind of
Play
break
off of.
tension there. Like where is this going to go? And then he breaks his arm and gets rushed to the hospital. And that kind of montage in the car where he's like, it's one of the funniest parts of the movie too, because he's like you said you were going to wash your hands of me or whatever. And he's like, I meant
obviously it's metaphorical.
Wash your hands.
You're not going to go literally wash your hands.
And that whole sequence, right? That takes you on a very that changes it and takes you on a very different trajectory for the rest of the movie because after that they're obviously bonding. You know, you can't really just look at your shoulder and then have the guy still be like, all right, you're still a pain in the ass. Like for the rest, of the
and
movie,
they don't want to report it to the insurance too, right? Because it's like it'll be discovered that way.
Yeah.
So like it's it's
Kids
believable because it's such a like weird situation to be in, but like that's more believable than like the contrivances of like lesser scripts.
Right. And so many moments where it could go exactly the way you're thinking, oh, I know what this movie's going to be.
Yeah, I know what this is.
It segues. So like the moment where you're like, oh God, there's two cute little kids who need attention. You're like, this could really get to be a slog as they tend to the emotional needs of the two little kids. And then a helicopter just fucking lands.
Yeah, literally, a helicopter lands and takes them away. I'm like, if only I could take that helicopter to other movies.
Yes, and just takes them out. And you're like, great, that was perfectly timed.
Those characters are gone now.
I think another moment it does it perfectly is the road trip to to Boston because
you got to go to Boston now. Exactly.
Well, because again, you're sitting there and you're like, all right, like they've had this little adventure, like how is this gonna change from there? And then the guy finally relents and takes takes them both to Boston, and it's like, cool, this is something different. Like this is something new that we're being kind of pushed through here.
Right, and then there's also the moment where the character from Paul Hunnam's past shows up, the former fellow student. And you're like, perfect. We need the pivot to like we got to start finding out about this guy, and he's probably not gonna tell until something.
And he gets his back too, right? He gives the assist, Steve, as we know.
Stevie wants to know where's Andy, and I have some bad news. We killed him. Anyway.
Oh my God, we left Andy in Boston.
He's not allowed to be on. Yeah, exactly. He's not allowed to be any show with Massachusetts in it. No,
he's like, this is where I live, and this is near where I live, and this is
the whole entire time.
Do not get me started. No, but like all right. So like the Lydia Crane character, right? The Carrie Preston role, like she's like you give you like, oh, they're gonna hook up, great. Like they're
but then
gonna hook
you
up.
see her kissing another man. I'm like, oh,
because here's that whole thing we expect, like, oh, she likes his quirkiness, and like she's gonna straighten him out and all that, and then you see that, and it's a brilliantly composed shot because he's in the foreground, and then it's happening in the background. You're like, oh, never mind.
She's way too friendly though to be platonic though. I was like, she's a little too friendly to this dude. Like, what the hell?
I can't remember if it's like A Wonderful Christmas Time, like one of those songs where it's like it's like
the most wonderful time of the year.
Yeah, it's the most wonderful. Yeah, and you see his face, and he's just like realizing what's going on behind him.
It's mortified. It's great.
Just what it's like when he thinks he has a chance of like, I could be a normal dude, I can slowly dip my toes into having a relationship, and then it doesn't happen.
And we get that
Well, and
narrative,
it's crushing.
right? Yeah.
Because if it's not with her, who could it be with?
Yeah.
Like to me, that's actually a daring characterization. That character. Occasionally you'll meet someone like that. Very, very rarely. Like you'll meet, especially a woman of such sweetness and benevolence. You're like, you cannot fucking be for real.
Yeah. What's your deal? What's
your
angle
deal?
here?
Yes, out of your own corruption, you'll say, "What's your deal?" Because it's
like,
someone who's just consistently so nice and giving. You're like, it cannot be.
What's your angle, kid?
Yeah.
Like, are you okay? Do you need to see a doctor or something?
Yeah.
And it is in those situations like working at some kind of private school or like something where you feel like you can make a difference in these kids' lives or something. That
Oh, she ain't bitter and jaded yet. That's the problem.
You find someone that that really does want to help people that much and isn't afraid to overlook like the stinkiness of the guy. All these different small things because they can see this optimistically. But it's like, of course, that woman has like a boyfriend already. That's
of course exactly. That's exactly
some other
right.
guys saw that.
And it's what I loved about it though is you kind of emotionally you knew it had to happen, but it's still somewhat shocking when it happens.
Or at the very least, I knew something had to happen, right?
Yeah,
like, it couldn't be that good for him.
Couldn't be that
this guy,
it couldn't. Yeah, exactly. But I thought the actress Carrie, I think it was Carrie Preston. I might be making that up. Is that right?
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah.
I thought she pulled off that impossible character really, really well. Because it could seem like it's unbelievable. If you haven't happened to have met one of those rare people, you'd be like, that's fiction.
You have to have a very kind face. And she has a very kind face.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
and she's just attractive enough to make it, just in a conventional way. To make it like, wow, she seems incredible that she would come into his life. But at the same time, she looks like a normal woman. She looks like an every person. And so it was just very artfully handled, this thing that you might not think any more about. But I was very struck by it. Like, that's a hard thing to pull off.
She knew like the names of all the regulars that hang out at the restaurant that she's just picking up like a little bit of extra time and it seems like her family has like that whole there's her niece or whatever that brings him down to the basement and shows him like the finger painting and stuff like that family tradition. Like there's so much it feels like that's almost like there's certain families I think that are very close and that have these traditions and stuff and it's that kind of made it more believable for me too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. That was
those Christmas parties do remind me of the ones that like me and my family used to go to, where like the adults would have their time, and then there would be like a preteen
kids area
preteen who was in charge of the kids. I was so glad by the time I got older, I was able to hang out with the adults and do like the Christmas ornament exchange and drink the margaritas. And
but then you realize how hammered the adults that you like.
This family knows how to drink too.
Well, we would go to like my mom's friends, like they would have like a rotating kind of Christmas parties on Christmas Eve, and I remember like the realization, like, oh, like everybody drinks so much in this, at least on Christmas.
Right? Back then, everybody drank. Everybody was hammered.
The house almost caught fire one time at the party that I went to. I was like, oh my god, this woman was so hammered.
Speaking of Carrie Preston, I knew I recognized from somewhere. It's from True Blood, which is a show I basically mentally redacted because I got so disappointed in it. But
what's wrong with Alexander Skarsgård? What do you got against him?
He was good in it. There was people that were good in it, but it was a dumb show. I mean, come on. Like, it started off okay, but like that was not a smart show.
Better than Twilight, though, in my opinion.
Well, that's a low barrier of entry, but I agree. Person of Interest, The Good Wife, basically a lot of the TV shows that I'm not familiar with. She's been in, but she was also in Vicky Cristina Barcelona, directed by nobody, of course, as we all know.
Oh, right, we don't acknowledge. Yeah. I don't even remember her in that, but okay.
Right. I don't even. I saw that movie. I don't
even remember who directed it. Apparently, no one directed it.
Yeah, no one barely. Just like Chinatown. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I saw that in theaters in 2008.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember anything about it? Scarlett Johansson's It's like Rebecca Hall.
I remember Scarlett Johansson being in it, and I remember Javier Bardem, but I don't remember
Javier Bardem. Yeah.
I think they got drunk in one scene and they were wandering through the city or something, and
probably. literally can't remember.
Yeah, story checks out. Story checks out. But I was so impressed with Carrie Preston's role that I definitely was like, I must have seen her in something else, right? This can't be like the first thing and she's been in all kinds of stuff. I just haven't seen.
Yeah, I actually I thought, is it one of those local hires? She was so great and so convincing to me. I was like, is it a local that he found? It was just great. You know, that happens sometimes. Like when the Coen brothers did A Serious Man, and half the cast were just local Minnesotans. Like people, just local people. We have that going on. Yeah, but no, she's a pro, huh?
Apparently, she was three different characters in 3 different episodes of Law and Order: Criminal Intent.
That's literally Let me tell you guys about the guest actors from Law and Order. There's people who played like one on Intent, one on SVU, one 5 times on regular Law and Order. So it's like
no one outside of IMDb or like I assume a message board is gonna care. I mean,
ever gonna know or care?
Like I'm like, I've seen him before. I'm like, yeah, you rewatch the show all the time. Of course, you've seen this person 10 times before.
There's only a show like Law and Order that can pull off like bring somebody back 3 times to play
because it's so formulaic.
Oh, Tony Goldwyn's gonna be on Law and Order replacing Sam Waterston. I'm like, okay, Mr. President, I see you.
Well, and also, so Devindra Randolph, I forgot she has a small but memorable role in Kajillionaire too, the Miranda July movie. She's the style, and like in the fact that like you'll remember it, you'll remember that character, right, in that sort of way. But I feel like all of her roles have been kind of in that vein for the most part. So. Like when it started being like Oscar buzz of like her getting nominated and let alone being the favorite, you know, it was like, wow, really?
I'm so confused why anyone nominated from The Color Purple. Like, what was the effort?
Well, sure, but because it is such a great performance, right? And in the way that
she's young too.
She is.
And she plays a mom. So okay, this is what I have issue with women of color. A lot of them end up playing roles that are way older than they actually are.
That could have gone a way different way.
That could have gone into so much different. This is
she's the same age as my sister.
Wow.
Yeah, 37.
Wow.
Okay.
So kind of same thing with American Fiction, the fact that Jeffrey Wright is
only Murders in the Building. I know the guy who made that show.
That's true. American Fiction, like Jeffrey Wright gets to actually act, you know, and it's a great role for him, and he is great in it. I know people that like dog on the movie, whatever. It's hard to deny that like he's great in the role.
Oh, absolutely.
And in that way, it's like Devindra Randolph here. It's like, yes, this is one of the best supporting roles that I saw that was not a movie called May December. You know,
I think she obviously broke out doing Dolomite Is My Name, like you know,
she's great.
With Eddie Murphy, but I completely forgot. I was like, where do I know her from? And it's that. And
for me, it was only Murders in the Building because I was like,
I forgot she was in that. Yeah,
what is she playing? Why am I blanking on this?
Officer Williams.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
she's great.
Of course.
How could I not remember?
I really want to
she's good.
I really want to get John Hoffman on the podcast so bad to talk about you know, maybe what inspired him to do the show because I love Only Murders in the Building.
That's a great show.
Yeah, the fact he got the talent. I mean, especially Divine Joy, like feature Oscar winner. Hello.
It's much more intelligent than many of the things out on TV. It's very enjoyable. Very enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
But I see more opportunities for Divine Joy in the future for sure.
Oh, for sure, because it's like one of those things that unfortunately requires something like getting the Best Supporting Actress nomination, at least for people to even remotely pay attention, right?
Yeah.
You know, and even as a surprise, like look at Paul Mescal last year for Aftersun, which was great. You know, there's he did All of Us Strangers. He's in the other movie with anyway, whatever. Point of fact, great because she's awesome. I mean, there's some real. She has some real great lines in this too. You know, like the whole like you can't even dream a whole dream, can you? Like
that's such a devastating line.
That was good
because and this is the thing about like the emotional intelligence of this guy is just so stunted, right? Like that he can't even feel like he can't even dream of like a better life for himself. Like he's been traumatized and beat down into he's just kind of stranded. Like And you know for a fact that if he didn't have this whole thing happen to him, and if he didn't get fired, he would have just been at that school till he died. He would have died. He would have
He would
died.
have died. He'd have been carried out in a coffin. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What's gonna
Buried on the
happen.
grounds.
Like,
Yeah.
He would have had a heart attack like mid lecture. He would have got so worked up about Marcus Aurelius. He would have been like he was killed, and then he would have dropped dead, and it would have been, and he would have just been a footnote in in stories about the school that
and everyone would be like, it's crazy how that asshole died, right?
Yeah, it's probably a school. It's probably a school that senators have gone to, this kind of school is a very specific thing.
People don't do their jobs.
Yeah, well, the actual school they filmed it in Groton or whatever. There's a place that at the time, right? The guy that ran that school was a national celebrity because all the famous politicians that were raised by him. There's an ethics code, but what happens to that kind of place in the closer to the modern world where it feels like that kind of place is increasingly irrelevant, and it's more like these LA kind of creative schools or these weird charter schools for rich people that end up being put into those spots, and not a place like this, which is dripping with tradition, but not going to modernize
No,
Yeah,
it's
how
one
would
of
you
the
ever-
great, shocking things that they actually are. He actually believes in this code of ethics that he can't. When he says a Barton man never lies, and that's so hilarious and that's so far in the past.
And
Even
then
in
he
the
just
70s,
fucking lies
that's so
his
far.
ass on.
And then he's lying his ass off.
Yeah.
But you're just really, it's amazing just to have a specific example of what was once uniformly true. That there was so much of a culture where people would invest in this idea that you'd have
code
these
of
codes
honor.
ethics
Yeah,
that people were going to try and live up to that are impossible. Yeah. I loved that about the film. I love that about the film trying to work with various levels of the past. Not only is Alexander Payne trying to make a movie that can pass for a 70s movie, and it's set in the 70s, but it's this whole tradition thing, and it's all in his own phrase as dead as the dodo, and yet they're living out. There's these forms that are still living out. For me, as a former teacher, the absolute lack of grade inflation, where he's giving people an F+ on their exam. But
not just any people.
The highest grade is the Angus
senators'
Sully. He gets
kids,
a B+.
senators' kids.
And you're that can't happen now. Everyone has been pressured up into grade inflation. Everyone.
Right.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would be it's so weird watching when I took of all classes human sexuality. We did an open book, open notes, open discussion, 5 questionnaire type of exam, and I'm like, can you just? I'm like, you're gonna just put an A on all of our papers, right? He's like, absolutely. I'm like, why are we doing this?
Why do it?
Wow. Why do it?
The whole system is tottering. It's if they can't get you there any other way, there's extra credit. There's 9 million ways to carry you across the finish line. And I'm talking about UC Berkeley, where there's still a reputation and standards. Imagine where there isn't. I mean,
and it's part of it is the idea that school, academies are a commodity, right? It's something that rich people can just kind of buy and pay for, whether it's at UC Berkeley or whether it's an Ivy League school or whether it's even a smaller private academy. There's this idea that this is a commodity. You're paying for your kid to go there, and because of that, you want your kid to succeed.
You're paying for a good grade.
Yeah.
You're doing what Aunt Becky did, huh? William H. Macy.
Yeah.
They went to prison for that.
That's right. She did, didn't she?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
That's the one kind of thing that's sad enough that you're like, all right, a celebrity actually can go to prison for that in 21st century America.
Or a white collar type of crime of some sort.
Yeah.
Well, but you guys bringing that up, it makes sense that that sort of the specter of punishment of misbehavior is going to military school, right? Because this is set in the 70s, where it's no, there's actually Vietnam.
Yeah, we want to send you off to your death in Vietnam.
Yeah,
you're being threatened with death. Exactly.
It's not like when it's used in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, right? Which is still great. Don't get me wrong, but it's not. It doesn't hit the same. It's like no, that actually that would be a real concern.
A real terror. Yeah.
And he'd probably Angus would probably be most likely to be sent off than any of the rich kids, as Saint Fogarty pointed out, fortunate son, right? So it's interesting to have that be set up as part of the mosaic of his past and his situation, because it isn't really spelled out. You're just well, why why was he left behind? Like, what's okay? They can't get hold. That's weird. And then like,
No child left behind. Y'all remember that?
they didn't. Yeah, they didn't get the memo. But then you get in this situation where it's actually like wild complicated, and then like the whole thing because you just think he's being a dick when he dishes out in the movie because like like whatever Paul Giamatti's character is just cutting up and like giving unneeded information as
he's being like Max and fucking Kate Fear.
Right.
Like Max Cady
joking and laughing real loudly. Oh my god, he should have started like. Well,
I mean, I'm talking about what he's like. It's like, well, actually, this movie does a good depiction of the Cheyenne. I was like, dude, shut up, Nobody cares right now. We're trying to watch the movie. We are trying to watch the movie. Please.
The other guy tries to shush him, and he's like, "Shut the fuck up!" To the other
to the other guy. We're just like, no, dude, like. You're completely in the wrong here, dude.
It reminds me of that scene out of a Scary Movie. Scary Movie where oh god, Regina, right? That was her name?
I don't know.
But she's like laughing. She's watching Shakespeare in Love, and she's like, "Oh my god, I'm about to have a heart attack!" And everyone's like, "Shut up, lady." And she's like, "Let me eat my food," and I'm like. It's not even. It's Shakespeare, and I still have issues with Shakespeare in Love. It should not have won any Oscars that year. Fuck Harvey Weinstein.
We don't even
still mad about it.
We don't even need Andy to get us off topic.
But I'm just saying, like it's a trope where people like react in a movie theater.
Well, that's his version of like. I feel like that's his version of like letting loose, almost, right?
Oh,
like,
absolutely. Yeah, he's being a cool guy hanging out.
And being yes, he's having this unusual experience of watching a movie and engaging with it, and he wants to be able to say.
I mean, he's still engaging with it as your ancient Civ teacher.
Yeah,
he would have made a great podcaster.
Imagine pop-up video with the most annoying person you know, but but also the subtitles are being read aloud.
It's mystery history theater 3000 or whatever, He's like, this movie's actually pretty accurate to the Cheyenne.
History Science Theater 3000.
Yeah. All right,
that's good. A lot of good little cameos in this too. The guy was it Kelly O'Coin is his name, who plays his old classmate. Like he's in Billions, and he's really good in Billions, which is full of people doing really good work. Like it's like got really good character actors and actresses in it.
And of course, Tate Donovan, who was Hercules in the Hercules movie.
Hey, getting back to what matters, the Hercules movie.
They found that the one kid more annoying than he is in the beginning. But before you feel sympathetic towards Angus, before you're like, oh, this kid's has it rough, and he becomes likable. Like he's kind of unlikable in the beginning of it.
Yes.
And they find the one kid way more unlikable than him that steals his fucking family photo.
This is this outright villain of a kid. Yeah, exactly.
Horrible overt racist scumbag of a kid. Yeah.
Make sure that one glove gets gone, just as an extra a-hole measure. Yeah.
But I love how much he wrecks that kid. When he's they're going back and forth. He's like, it's the winter. Like your parents are not renovating their house. They just don't want you at their house for the holiday. Yeah, you just.
I mean, he has a point, though, Angus. He has a point.
Well, but I like that casual brutality that actually happens with kids, and that's one of the things I have a problem with. Like so many movies that are set in schools, where it's like, come on. First of all, people aren't generally that clever, and they're definitely much more cruel. And so when you have a situation where it's like, well, those things are actually pretty well represented,
especially in the old days before the anti-bullying things.
Yeah,
I think it has made a difference.
Kids got woke.
Oh my god! Well, I just talking to my godsons, and the older of them won prom king, and his girlfriend won prom queen, and believe me, they never would have won in my era. They were like these complete. I don't know, oddball people who wore skull T-shirts and there were not at all the mainstream kids who would want. So I was like, something has changed. Something has radically changed since my era. When
those kids are popular now.
Sorry,
schools
those kids are popular now.
It all had shifted, and this is a number of years ago. But everything had changed, and I was just like, I don't recognize any of this, but it sounds better than what I remember. What I remember was horrifying.
Yeah.
Really bad.
Exactly. Sound like a prison. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it was principals throwing kids into lockers, and there was just casual violence from faculty to students and between students, and it was just and the bullying and the insulting. It was just rampant and off the charts. Yeah, it was terrible.
You get the feeling though in this movie, right? Like that kind of stuff still exists, and not only does it still exist, like no one really cares. Like no one really cares about it, unless you get to a situation where they do, right? Like
Right.
the 1 in a million thing is, that they found the snow globe or whatever that he gives to his dad that he stole from the woman's house, and then they're like, did you let him go see his dad? Like, but like, what are the chances of that being, a thing that actually busts them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's only because of the fraught relationship between her and her, I guess former husband, and that's it. And again, like that's going to be something.
Her fraught
Very
relationship.
well then, ma'am.
The fraught relationship between her and Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, dude,
After the lobotomy.
big Nurse Ratched vibes, yeah. No, but like
she just stares up like this and doesn't make any expressions, and I'm like,
well, and you have to understand, like you get the indication there's more to that story than just what's being shown right then and there.
She
right?
cares more about money than her own son. That's what it is.
Well, it's inconvenient to have him around. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's inconvenient.
It seems even more damning somehow that it's in the inconvenience.
Exactly.
I already don't like that actress because she's been in so many things. I feel like I was looking at what she's been in, and it's like it's even like The Hangover. She's been in like a lot of those things, but she's always like it's always a super bitchy character, right?
Oh, really?
She looks like a super bitch.
Yeah, so I went into it. So then I'm like, oh my god, I hate this kid's mom already. And then why do I subconsciously hate her? She was like, she's really bitchy. The Hangover. She was in 40-Year-Old Virgin. She's the woman that Steve Carell is like when he's speed dating or whatever. That like
she was on Mad TV.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow. That's hilarious.
That's funny.
Wow.
I knew she looked familiar. But it was like one of those things that's like
Deck the Hall. She's in a lot of hits, y'all.
Oh wow!
She's always playing the same
All the
kind of character.
Hangover movies.
Wow.
Yeah, she's in Step Brothers. She was
Mad TV.
Damn. Got a serious career at this. All right.
I would be remiss to not throw in the Cherries Jubilee scene, and so we could talk about that because how great is that scene? Which I feel like there's been iterations of that scene in other things. 5 Easy Pieces. There's actually an iteration of that 5 Easy Pieces, right?
Like, no, the kid's underage. You can't have anything dessert, even though alcohol does kind of burn off or whatever.
And all these attempts at compromise and nothing can possibly work. There's like no way to do it. And yeah. So
and you're just kind of like, well, how's this going to play out? And then like, again, we're trained now to think of like Larry David, right? Where it's just like, okay, it's like so it's almost like you think it's going to turn that way, but then Paul Dunham says, and I wrote it down. Christ on a crutch. What kind of fascist hash foundry are you running here?
I love that line.
Which, if there was just that line in this movie, I love this movie because that's the perfect deployment again of this Ignatius Riley, like way too smart for his own good and way too focused on stuff that doesn't matter kind of guy. That he's like just has like the best response.
Beautiful. Well, and it's also great. The denouement in the parking lot where they've added too much.
What they're making their own Cherry Jubilee
goes up in applause. That was nicely done too.
It's so good. It's the kind of, so again, when we talk about this movie being thinking you know what it is and thinking, oh, this is going to be a found family redemption story. It's the Grinch. It's this. It's that. It's the other thing, and it's like, yeah, but not how you think it's going to be. Like it happens, but in ways that are new and interesting and funny and kind of like weird little slice of life, like vignettes that are actually based in reality instead of like the Hallmark Channel.
Yeah, well, so David Hemmingson that wrote this said that he purposely gave Paul Giamatti like as many like tongue twister kind of things as he could. So it's something like fascist hash foundry, like you can't say this. Yeah.
I'm laughing again. Let me tell you.
So I wanted to play this clip of the guy that actually wrote it, talking about. So I guess he based the Paul Giamatti character on his uncle, and he had written this. Pilot, like this TV pilot that was like he wanted to do about like a boarding school, and it was going to be about like set pretty much in this universe, but it was like a TV show that he wanted to do about his dad. His parents got divorced and like this really messy thing. His dad worked at the school that he got sent to, and then his uncle was like acting like his dad pretty much. You know what I mean? Because his parents were like split apart, and his mom got remarried really fast. So he wrote this thing about like his uncle as like this character.
Nice. Okay.
I think of what it means to be like human, a person, and the idea of having these paradoxes, these contradictory ideas in our head, like hating school and hating your teachers, but carrying their wisdom for like your entire life.
Yeah.
Like I literally have nightmares about being back in school.
Yep.
But I think about my teachers every day.
Yeah, they have a positive and sometimes negative influence. Sometimes they model what not to do, but oftentimes, like, you know, there's just stuff that you're not ready for back in the day, and it could be, you know, it could be the context of adolescence, which is a difficult and fraught time to begin with. Yeah, but I feel like oftentimes teachers. My dad was a teacher. Like, teachers will give you things that don't really come to fruition for decades, and then all of a sudden, you're like, oh my God, that's what they were talking about. You know, which is awesome. And that's what great teachers do. And even bad teachers do that sometimes, you know?
So if I'm not mistaken, this started out as a TV spec script, as like an idea for a series, right?
Yeah, what happened was I wrote this pilot about my own personal experiences at this prep school. I call it, the name of the pilot, Stonehaven. And it was very much the story of like me going to the school. My parents had divorced, and I was kind of estranged from my dad. He was teaching there, and it was sort of like, and then my uncle, who sort of had become my de facto father, this sort of troika of people, you know, that were influencing me. And Alexander got a hold of it and had been thinking about this idea for about a dozen years about a prep school over Christmas, and called me up out of the blue. I almost hung up on him because I thought someone was bullshitting me. You know, I'm dead serious, man. I have a buddy named Bob, a screenwriter, and he has in the past called me up and kind of disguised his voice and said, like, you know, David Hemmings and Francis Ford Coppola, you know, and I'm like, oh God, how did you? I contacted WM. I was wondering, and like, I'll get all breathless, and I'll be like, you know, well, I don't know what to say, and he's like, psych, you're an idiot, you know, like, you know, let's go get a beer. And I'm like, why are you so cruel to me? I don't understand.
Yeah,
but the phone call came, and I was driving back from LAX, and I didn't even see who it was. I was kind of tired, and I picked up the phone. David Hemmingson, Alexander Payne. And I was about to say, fuck you, Bob, you know, and hang up. And then I saw the Omaha area code, and I was like, oh, is this really Alexander Payne? He's like, yeah, no. And he said, I read your TV pilot, I loved it. I thought, okay, great, he's gonna make my pilot. Immediately said, I don't want to make your pilot, but I would love it if you wrote a movie for me in the same world. So would you write a prep school movie for me? And I was like, yeah, I'll do that right now. Absolutely. And that's how it happened. He'd read the pilot, and then I sort of broke it totally. He hit a log line for the movie he wanted, you know, which was kind of ocularly challenged, odiferous professor stuck at Christmas as punishment with these kids, and one of the kids' mothers has abandoned him because she's gone on her honeymoon. That's what he had. Go. And so everything else was sort of, I kind of made up everything else.
So you didn't know Alexander?
No, but one of the reasons I'm still with my now manager, used to be agent, was that I wrote this pilot, and he was sort of like, I really like this weird little pilot you wrote that's so specific no one will ever make. So thanks for wasting my time and yours. Kind of like, you know, he said to me, like, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. But I guess I'll hang on to it because it's a nice piece of writing. And then he managed to get to a friend of Alexander's because he'd heard that from this friend who's also a client of my manager. So he had a client who knew Alexander and got it to Alexander through that client.
Not to put the cart in front of the horse or anything, but would you like to expand that pilot as like a sequel spin-off kind of thing?
I don't think it would ever line up with the Holdovers because it's actually set in 1980. I think it would, honestly, between you and me, brother, I think it would make a great TV show. I still do.
Oh, there you go. That is a man looking for more work. Hey, he's Oscar nominated now. You know, hey, it's
maybe. But that's so hilarious. It's so specific. No one will want to see it. You're like,
yeah,
my fucking God, is really?
Yeah,
we can't connect at all the very, very specific world to like more universal themes. What the fuck? What is this impairment we have? I would give anything for a series of ultra specific, show me a world and how it works.
Yeah.
Get me in there. What the hell?
Everybody's trying to be all things to all people, and you get a bunch of pablum instead.
I mean, what I will say is, I think as like if you're someone I think that does managing for like a TV writers, like I feel like maybe you're trained to see these things on TV as like they have to be so universalist and so like easily appeal to people that they can sell ads in between them and people will watch those ads. So I could see being trained, but like I mean, in some ways it's nice that he's like, it is a nice piece of writing. Like you clearly put your heart into it.
Yeah.
No one's ever gonna buy it.
That's the classic question. And if you even are on the fringes of showbiz, no matter what you show to anyone, they always like what you show them and then say, what else have you got?
Yeah.
That's totally different from this.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's mad. But this is why we're also bored as fuck. Who are we kidding? We're bored out of our minds and we talk ourselves into liking things more. I do it all the time. I know I do. People think I'm so harsh on movies and TV and I never like anything. I'm like, you do not even know.
Really?
I am talking myself into shit. Like, this is pretty good.
I don't see people on Twitter get mad at that after reading Jacobin articles at all.
Yeah, I've seen some people say, like, what? Jacobin needs better review. I'm like, oh my God, get a break. I'm like, just chill out.
Well, but for me, it's also like, oh, Eileen really likes that one. Great. And honestly, like, I've talked to you this before, Eileen. Like, 9 times out of 10, I agree with you. And so I know if you're kind of my canary in a coal mine. If you're like, yeah, this thing's a piece of crap, then I'm like, great, I'll miss it.
Well, it's like people really want critics to like what they like and not like what they don't like, right?
Right.
A lot of times.
Well, yeah, that's true. But on the other hand, there's an added irony in that if you write a really loving piece, you get much less response than if you do a hate piece. People find hate pieces exhilarating. Even if they're mad at you, they like get all like, wow. But if you write a beautifully composed dedication to something great, it's like crickets out there.
Get ready for my review of Madam Web, written by the dudes behind Morbius.
Yeah, exactly. Get everyone's limbic system lit up like a Christmas tree, you know? Yeah. Look, I mean, there's also just very little actual movie criticism these days. Everything's like part of like a PR campaign.
Absolutely. Yeah. So many of these people are so bought and paid for it that I don't even think they know they are anymore. I think in the old days they knew they were.
Right.
There used to be something called, it's a terrible term, we don't use it anymore, but it was called you're a quote or, because you'd write punchy little phrases.
Oh, so they could put it on the poster or whatever.
They could put it on the poster. This was like obviously happening. Everyone was suddenly writing 3-word sentences that would go on a fucking poster. So, you know, it was insidious in there, but now it's just part of the way everything operates. So these critics were like, thumbs up, everyone should sort of see it, I guess. I wrote a plot summary and said thumbs up. That's it. And you're just like, how can this go on? It's the
world of YouTube, right? Like they let critics
or Letterboxd because now you see people's Letterboxd reviews on Wikipedia articles of like the reception section of a movie now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm like, okay.
I feel like you're setting up my bit, Kristina. Are we doing it?
I mean, maybe, but I'm just saying that like some of the people who get like the screeners, like people like us should be getting all that shit. Not gonna lie, we deserve a lot better. But like it's like they're like, they used my Letterboxd review in the reception section for Barbie or whatever, and I'm like,
great.
Damn.
Well, but I mean,
how'd you enjoy giving that free labor?
Part of it is that they've taken the critic out of just the print medium and made the critic into an online celebrity themselves that gets to go like do something like
a critic.
Like they get to interview somebody on the red carpet, or they get to be in a YouTube video, or
you're at the big press junkets, you're at the premiere.
And so because of that, I feel like every critic now looks at everything as like a career opportunity, and they're like, how do I turn this into like?
How can I leverage this into something?
Into an interview with whoever, Timothée Chalamet.
Timothée, yes.
But I feel like you see the same.
Please, I call him Bob Dylan. Thank you.
You see the same things with like like food critics or anything like that, right? Like they at some point
we can't be going to Ramsey.
They want like an invite to like the big the big new restaurant or whatever. So they're like, oh, this restaurant, I'll be the guy that says this restaurant's good for you.
Yeah, if you light it up, then you just get disinvited, right? So that's no fun.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
Which allows mediocrity to hold sway. is what that means. So when you get like movies that like you read a review and I'm like, I swear I saw that movie and it was a different movie. Like I know what I saw wasn't good at all, and I don't know why that person said that. I'm like, oh well, they probably.
We also live at a time where if you really like something, you can direct your anger at the critic. At it, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's got to sway how people view things too, because they're
Like when you told that dude on the Wizard of Oz
upset.
episode to kill himself, even though he'd been dead for 50 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys. That's what I am.
Yeah. Ooh. Even if Eileen can't hang up, are we going to do an after party? Because I have some thoughts about some trailers that dropped.
Yeah, we will. Do you want to talk about Madam Web? Is that what we're going to talk about?
Well, or
a
Wicked, or
fascinating-
Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
Or
Oh, I know. I
whatever
just
else.
saw the Wicked one. I mean, we're getting
Yeah.
off topic here, but yeah. Wow.
The slippers are still silver. They're not ruby.
Oh, they're silver
Not
shoes.
ruby,
Oh, okay.
that's right.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay. I was wondering if they changed it. Yes.
Anyway, could we talk quickly about the fact that Alexander Payne makes very few movies? He hasn't made a movie, I believe, since 2017, which was Downsizing.
Which I didn't see. I didn't see that.
I might be the only person who's seen it. It did so badly, and it was atrocious.
One person. Turns out one person saw it.
It tanked like beyond belief, and it was genuinely painful to watch. It was just terrible.
Oh, man.
He was trying to do a kind of sci-fi social commentary thing, and
Was
really
your review
about somebody
more
who's-
like Alexander Painful?
Yeah, it was definitely
or just spelled like Pain, P-A-I.
Yeah.
Was Matt Damon in it? I feel like.
Yes, Matt Damon was the star. Yeah.
I remember when that came out. I didn't watch it.
Oh, nobody watched. I reviewed it, and I was reviewing it in a void, knowing I was. I knew no one had
Didn't he
seen it.
shrink?
Nobody read my review because no one had seen it. It was not,
Right,
but it was
right.
so painful because it was like all of his skills had just disappeared. And it's very rare to follow a director for decades and see that happen to them. Like they
Have
seem
them
to
just miss the
lose.
mark that much.
And then to come back like this. So I was
Yeah.
watching the Holdovers just going, this can't be happening. It's so good. It's
Could be
like
the same
he's
director.
back after having had a stroke or something.
It's like
I
Rocky
mean,
Balboa after that Rocky movie we do not speak of.
that's very good.
Wait, which one was it?
So
It does not exist, so I can't speak of it.
yeah. And then he spends years and years on every goddamn film. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah, and like it's no, I agree because like I just mentally redacted it because it didn't make sense that like that movie existed. I'm like,
It's nothing like his other movies. It's the whole thing just doesn't work. It's just he's way out on a limb. It doesn't work. Yeah.
We are going to be doing Nebraska next month, so I'm excited for that. Excited to revisit that
cool.
one. Great Bruce Dern performance there. It's interesting to. I mean, God, I'm very fascinated by this writer guy. Like, and again, like, so I guess he got started on doing the Adventures of Pete and Pete. If you even remember that show, which was like I think Nickelodeon, like a Nickelodeon show. But it was kind of like on the weirder side. Like it was. This is gonna sound funny, but it's like if you tried to take like one part David Lynch. And 2 parts kid show, like it was a very just weird, like it was funny. It was weirder than like it really had any right to be. So but smartly written, like more smartly written than a kid show needs to be, basically. And like that was how he got his start. But like this dude's almost 60. And like this is like his first thing that's like hit, and like obviously, I mean, freaking nominated for it's original screenplay, right? Original screenplay for this one thing. Like,
yes,
I'm always fascinated by late period success, you know, because it's sort of like there's plenty of people that are just like doing the work and it just doesn't matter, and people have near misses and it just doesn't matter. But
David Hemmings' thing, it seems like looking at his like his Wikipedia or whatever, he's one of those people that they bring in when a show is like either floundering or getting started.
Punch Up. He does right. He does lots of like, hey, this isn't working for some reason. Please fix it. He does like that kind of work, which they call it punch up in comedy, but there's definitely a lot of situations where you basically have a flawed premise from the start. Like the characters don't work, like the concept, but like you bring someone in to kind of like, all right, can you polish this turd first, please? Thank you. And it seems like has been stuck doing much of that, which if you think about like how writers operate, like that's, you know,
they brought him in for a bunch of episodes of Blackish.
Really?
Oh, wow, really? Well.
Well, anyway, I think it's interesting because it's so smartly written. It's one of the best. It's one of the best written movies I can think of in a while. And actually, I think there's been a lot of good writing. in films recently, but this one really stood out to me as far as the working, but also being clever. Because there's things that are like very clever. Like, I mean, Bottoms is pretty clever, and I liked it. You know,
I like Bottoms. That was really enjoyable. Yeah,
it was clever in ways
funny.
that I think it doesn't
Funny
give
as hell
credit
in
for.
parts.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If you're a comedy, maybe it should be funny, right?
Yeah, it's a radical new idea, but I'm for it.
And I laughed a lot during Bottoms. It was
me
completely
too.
absurd, but I laughed
It was
a lot.
thrilling. It was. I think we were all more thrilled even than made any sense just for that reason alone. It was funny.
It was like, wow, this is an actual comedy that is funny. Amazing.
Yeah.
But I think it's notable that like writing, like look at the writer's strike, right? Like people like don't even understand what writing is if they're not total nerds. You know, I mean, let's be real. So like Frankie could be writing and they wouldn't know.
He would be the best writer ever.
Yeah. Well, and people don't internalize like the consequences unless you're somehow wired in. I mean, like, you know, I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for Ethan Cohen's Drive Away Dolls, a comedy.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Out.
I forgot about
it
that.
is finally coming out on the 23rd of this month, but it was held up by the SAG-AFTRA strike. So it was supposed to come out ages back.
Right.
So that's why if you saw previews and you were tracking it, you just kept seeing the preview going
over and
what
over
the
again.
fuck?
When is this movie going to come out?
Like Dune 2. I mean, I can't wait to get that popcorn bucket and sign it for a Lucky Movie Night Extravaganza viewer.
Did you see the popcorn bucket, Eileen? You had to have. Right?
I did not.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
No.
All right. Christina Forrest set it up. I'm going to look for it.
Oh,
so they
How
released you know how a lot of movies that come out, they release something big like a popcorn bucket
Yeah.
of some sort or like a drink thing. Well,
Yeah.
they decided to make the cup kind of look like the worm thingy, and it looks like a vagina with teeth.
Oh,
and like if you put a lot of butter in it, it's just gonna go.
This is the popcorn bucket, Eileen.
Frankie's like, ew, gross. Look at that thing.
My favorite thing about it is that it also seems to have the worm shaft, kind of.
Yes,
like,
yes.
and it seems to be made of brick, of some kind of brick.
Yes,
like,
there seems to be a brick effect. Yeah, that is really disgusting. Wow.
Yeah. So
this is like the contraption that you'd find at Barton Academy that some kid would have made. That some kid would have made, you know, with found objects to use as a flashlight.
Right. Well, and there's a great, and we do need to finish a bit and close the show out. But there's a great interview with Rebecca Ferguson where she's who's in Dune 2, and she's asked about this, and like she like reacts to it in real time, and she basically goes like, "Oh, I guess they didn't have an intern to run this past." Something along those lines.
I'm wondering, do they not have like rooms of people that they're like, hey, before we put this online, like, maybe,
right? Yeah,
like,
let's run this past a young person.
Yeah.
Maybe we can see if we can. You know what? This is brilliant. Put it in production.
It's like a room full of like horny like divorced executives that are like, oh man, this is good. Can I borrow that for a second? Like I just want to make sure the feel is right. You know, get some popcorn in there, like.
All right. So Letterboxd, of course, is a place for film lovers to talk with and to each other, talk about the movies they love, maybe the movies that they didn't love, the movies that they got held over at school because their parents are a-holes. And of course, all this is best expressed succinctly, right? It's a bottom of democracy, but you have to keep it short. Everyone's working on their tight five and hoping that they get to go to the premieres and be one of the famous people. But of course, there is entertainment value to all of this, and that is what we do here for the Letterboxd one-liners. These are the Letterboxd one-liners for The Holdovers. Let's roll them. They made a movie that feels like walking into a warm house after being outside in the snow all day, and it was excellent.
The first half feels like you're outside in that cold snow, right. And then the second half you're like, oh my god, thank God I'm inside now.
Yes, that's true. Especially when he loses the glove too. It's like, yeah, the loudest slap I've ever heard to they don't make movies like they used to kind of film guys.
Yeah,
it's true.
There's something almost like I don't want to say like Jimmy Stewart-esque, but like there's something very classic Hollywood about this.
I agree.
About like, and you don't feel like it's going to be for the first like little bit of it, or like it shouldn't feel that way because it's like a lot of it is almost kind of grotesque in the way they present, you know, the Paul
Yeah.
Giamatti character. But like by the end of it, there's just something so like golden age of Hollywood about it.
Well, that's why I mentioned Sullivan's Travels. Like it kind of plays like a Preston Sturges movie almost somehow too.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's got that old school sort of sensibility. Yeah.
Well, and it sticks the landing. It gets the ending, which I was sure through
Which
the whole
no
movie.
modern movies do. Yes.
They never do, and I thought for sure it would botch it, and they didn't botch it. Incredible.
Although Past Lives has a pretty great ending. Talking about last.
I mean, the only way that they could really like it's a perfect like if they showed you what he was doing after this, it's like you kind of.
That would have been terrible.
You killed the open-endedness of like,
Yeah.
this is a guy. This guy could do anything. Like he's basically leaving college. Like he's basically leaving where the cover. I mean, he's like a 65-year-old or like whatever, like 60-year-old guy like leaving college for finally. Like you know what I mean? Like what's gonna happen from here? I don't know. He might he might need one of those jobs that's like, oh, this is an entry-level position, and then they're like, but you need 20 years of experience.
Some Better Call Saul working at the mall. By the way, Paul Giamatti's only 56. Just FYI.
Oh wow. Well, that
they make him older.
He always seems
older.
older. He plays older a lot. Yeah.
With some great a great DGen move with the alcohol mouthwash. It's little details.
Well, just in case they pull him over.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul Giamatti thinks about the Roman Empire every 3.7 seconds.
The two things in this movie became very prescient that they could not have known, right? Like there was that discourse, and there was also all the plagiarism shit that like made the president of Harvard resign, and then that whole back and forth, like
a little too on the nose.
Yeah. Like who the fuck talks about plagiarism at Harvard ever? Like, I mean, outside of like the academic community.
Right, that's right. Very weirdly topical. Yeah.
I don't believe that Teddy suffered the necessary consequences for what he did to Angus's picture. I agree.
He doesn't pay. It's true.
Does not pay.
The only thing he really pays with is like he gets wind.
He gets windburn.
Yeah.
Exactly. From skiing.
Karma's a bitch.
They have that sadness in their eyes that you only see in Eastern European gay porn.
I don't even know what that means, but
I don't either. But
that's pretty funny.
And you only had to look at the photo here to be able to say that.
Yeah, exactly. Great background work there. Yeah.
In the Roman Empire.
Perfectly captured the most important elements of the holiday spirit: loneliness, depression, and alcoholism. Smiley face.
I love the he's getting lit like 11 a.m. line.
Like 11 a.m. And I love that this is a necessity. Like how many tributes to drinking are in this film? Champagne and beers. It's just constant. That's very 70s. Very
yeah, absolutely.
What do you think about Miller High Life? It's the champagne and beers.
Yes.
So good. If you can, I highly recommend seeing this in a small but full theater comprised almost entirely of Berkeley residents in their 60s. We were cracking the fuck up in there.
Oh, I thought they would be like, well, this is an actual description of what it was like for young schoolboys. And like he said, shut up!
Exactly. That would be if the character was there. Yeah.
Right. This is a review specifically written for Eileen. Like,
right, exactly.
She's like, I've seen multiple movies and like full theaters of Berkeley residents in their 60s.
Yeah, that's sadly true. It's usually much more solemn and self-important. And so this is a nice break from that, actually.
Right. A movie that is both hot chocolate for the soul and chicken soup for the lazy eye.
For the lazy eye.
I'm just telling you, he would have had exercises to fix that lazy eye or something a few decades later.
It was a different time. I don't know why, but I started crying when they made Angus Cherry's Jubilee.
Oh, what a sweetie. You're like Miss Lydia. Oh,
he couldn't
exactly.
just get some brandy. He's had a rough day.
Oh, so good. Like being beaten to death by a Cat Stevens album. Those are the Letterboxd one-liners for the Holdovers. Please.
I've had that song crying. Stuck in my head for 2 days.
Please follow the show on our HQ account at Movie Night Extra on Letterboxd, where we're posting stories of all the various episodes for the movies that we cover, as well as lots of other great bonus content as far as that goes. You can also follow your host there, the Barton Academy janitor, at Always Flacco. He is logging all the stuff we do in this show, giving his unique sensibilities there as well.
That makes me sound like I'm fucking Paul Giamatti. What? He's got unique sensibilities.
He's got unique sensibilities. I am, of course, at Conan Neutron. Meditations by Conan Neutron. I'm watching the highbrow, the midbrow, the populist fair. You can follow me along for the Criterion Challenge if you feel so inclined. Film school dropouts, all that good stuff. I am up in there. The Leftovers podcast down there. Kristina at Kristina. She logs stuff when she feels like it, and she's on there as well. Eileen Jones doesn't even know what Letterboxd is. It's not her
sorry.
Wait. You host a film podcast and you don't have a Letterboxd account? Sorry.
She gets paid. She gets paid to like do it.
Her things for free.
Exactly.
Film Suck. It's a great podcast, and no, I'm totally out of it. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, that's fine. We these aren't actually the plugs yet. In fact, we got to run our. We got to get a word from our sponsor in real quick, right? So
yeah, we do have to get a word from our sponsor.
That is actually not a bit. We do have a sponsor.
Tonight's podcast is brought to you by Jebiga, a Balkan Rakia spirit plum brandy that brings Serbia to the American shores in an authentic and appreciative way. Care of Billy Gould, bassist for Faith No More, and Rakia Appreciator. Rakia is a traditional spirit enjoyed at weddings, funerals, and life events. However, more and more it's being enjoyed everywhere on a night out with friends or as a casual drink. Get a bottle today in liquor stores and bars across America. Go to Jebiga.com to see where it's available near you.
There you go. Kristina, my friend, please take us away with the plugs.
Yes, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you like this video, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you know when we go live, and make sure you watch us like the whole time so we can get up in the algorithm with all the film lovers and maybe film curious and film haters and film horniest. You never know. If you're watching us on Twitch, maybe there's like one or two of you watching us on the Twitch account. Make sure you follow us and subscribe, maybe with the Amazon Prime, because then you get it for free and it helps us with the channel as well. Maybe we'll get some emotes. You never know. We do have, as Conan mentioned, we have a Letterboxd HQ account, so check us out there. We also have a Patreon where you can enjoy our after parties, like we're gonna have tonight, which not really sure what we're gonna cover, but we're gonna let loose a little bit tonight.
It's gonna be all popcorn bucket.
What I called tonight's after party? I called it
Jubilee.
The Cherries Jubilee after party.
Yeah.
That's right. For most of the other after parties, we're doing Oscar picks from the guests, but Eileen did not do her homework. So.
Damn it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Failed.
She'll be casting her absentee ballot. I'm really mixing my metaphors.
Oh my God,
you'll be represented.
We also have a Discord now. The link is usually in the description for every video now. I host after parties usually on Monday afternoons Eastern time. We have a lot of fun there. We're building the community. We're making we're doing great things over there, as I like to say.
We had a watch of Holdovers on Monday.
We're going to do May December,
and we're going to May December next week. So, especially, I know some people have said that they hadn't had a chance to watch the movies that we're covering. So, there's your chance. Come watch it with us.
Yeah, and if you have some other excuse after that, you know what? Fuck you. You know that you're just making excuses at that point.
How dare you? No one wants to hear your excuses.
True. Now, Conan.
Yes.
If people want to enjoy your music, right? They go to neutronfriends.bandcamp.com, right?
Neutronfriends.bandcamp.com is the best way to do it. The Buy the Whole Discography feature is back, so you can buy literally everything I've ever done, including Adult Prom, which is the most recent LP with Lung.
Yes.
West Coast shows, LA, San Francisco, Bakersfield and Costa Mesa, coming up very beginning of March. 2 of those with McCluskey. So that's the next thing.
And make sure y'all check out Photography Reversal, which is right behind him. He's been doing a lot more episodes lately. He's been crushing it.
Crushing my sleep schedule, that's for sure.
You had Peter Prescott of Mission to Burma.
Mission to Burma from Massachusetts, a Massachusetts legendary band. Yeah, that was yesterday. And Steve Hodson of USA Nails and Blacklisters on Thursday, and then Steve Turner of Mudhoney on Saturday.
And you got Caterwall coming up too.
It's that end of May. Yes, single day tickets now available.
Do you have a graphic for that?
You think I would have had that ready, huh? But I usually have at least 7 minutes before it gets to that. So
yeah, because Andy's like, what I'm like that.
Peace and love. Yeah, there you go. There's the Caterwall line.
Horse. Sorry, that's like my
Horrors
favorite.
along with cunts and intercourse all on the same day.
Yes.
So there you go.
And gay witch abortion.
And gay witch abortion. Yes. There you go. I do be like that sometimes.
Yes. And I think that's all of your.
That's it
plugs,
for me.
right?
Yeah.
Wow,
I know,
that
it's
took
so
like
fast.
2
It's-
minutes.
I
Eileen,
could have
you
pulled
got-
10 more letterbox one-liners.
Yeah, Eileen, you got your podcast, Film Suck, right? Any
Film Suck is my podcast. My co-host Dolores McElroy and I we're from the Academy, but we're recovering, and it's much more lively and ranty than that sounds. So yes.
What are you going to be talking about on the next one?
We are talking about, of all things, Barbara Streisand's 900+ page memoir, which it came out in November of 2023, but
Wow.
it takes you 3 months to fucking read it.
That's like War and Peace.
Yeah, Dolores is a huge fan, and I am not so much a huge fan, so it gets a little contentious, but we're still friends over Babs. So that's the next thing coming up, and after that, I'm hoping that Drive Away Dolls, the new Ethan Coen film, is actually coming to my backwater, so that can be our next episode. That's my prayer. If not that, we're gonna have to find something else to rant about. And then of course I write usually angry working class woman rants as the film critic for Jacobin magazine, and those are my 2 posts in the
Like
world.
we need a working class rant for this one.
Yeah.
We need the people need to have their say.
Yeah,
Need someone from the working class to chime it in.
Who's representing?
That of course
always be asking.
is Boschkar's voice. You know, that's what.
Yes.
Anyway, that's all I got. Sorry, I suck at plugging. So carry
The
on.
May December episode, not only because we're doing May December next week, but y'all's May December episode is one of the better ones I've heard.
Oh,
Almost
thank you.
nobody talking about that great movie.
Oh, I know,
on
and
the
people
topic.
just outright didn't get it. Even people who are usually like great were like, "Why was this movie ever made? What's the point?" They really missed they missed it.
Yeah.
So too bad.
And we would ask you for that one too, but it's already a big panel, and we don't do that cast 1,000.
Oh, that's
stuff
okay.
anymore.
That's okay. I'm well represented on the show.
Right, exactly. You're 2 times for the year already. You're beating some people that are regulars. You know,
People are sick of me already. It's okay.
And for those who want to check me out, I'm currently streaming on Twitch at Cosmopolitics. You can find me everywhere on Cosmopolitics. I think. I'm going on like a Twitch dating show tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern. I get to either ask questions someone has to guess if I'm a real person or AI, or I get to guess if someone's a person.
I'm still
or
not
AI.
always sure.
Yeah, we have it.
it's Rudolph Valentino, just so you know.
Yeah, but it's gonna be Capri Sun Poppy's Twitch stream. Pretty cool.
I understand that those are words. I do not understand what they mean.
Yeah. And every other Thursday, not this Thursday, but every other Thursday, you can catch me on Power Report with Dan from the web.
Which Dan and Bam are both coming on in May for Summer of Sam of all the Spike Lee movies.
Finally,
I'm
we
like,
get to
really?
beat the
That one?
racism
Okay.
allegations. Okay.
Wait, we have racism allegations?
Talking that trash. Why
Of
Summer
course,
of
you got
Sam? I don't-
anything coming
whatever,
up?
I don't. I'm here in Long Island helping out with my grandma, who's
Also catch Andy.
She's on her driving Miss Daisy kind of shit right now.
Okay. Also catch Change the World on Give Them an Argument, which is every Monday at 8 p.m. I believe.
Which he reminds us about constantly. But we do dearly love our Andy, and of course we miss him. So
yeah,
he's being a good father. So good for him.
Mm-hmm. Someone else
It's hilarious that out of everyone that hosts this show, he's the one that's a father.
Surprising.
Yeah,
I've got the acumen for it. Apparently, I'm trying to turn the show around.
I would have guessed Kristina, but
yeah, I don't want kids.
Get you a Father of the Year.
Yeah, step parent. That's what I wanted to be, the stepmother to like rich kids who are older than me. The trophy wife.
All right, final thoughts. What are we doing here?
Yes.
Eileen, final thoughts.
Speaking of dadding out on this show, yeah.
Oh, dear, I mean,
I'm just not used to the plugs being so fast.
You're welcome. Maybe I should start doing them now.
It's kind of jarring. It's kind of jarring.
But Eileen, yeah.
Okay, final thoughts. Just I'll just reiterate the surprise factor. You think you know what this is going to be. I've encountered this so often. So many people won't see this film. They're literally like, it's going to be so boring. I know exactly, and you don't. Yes, in its most broad strokes, but everything within that is wonderfully surprising and refreshing and delightful. And it's just it's a tribute to everything that we don't have now. There were quite things that were quite good in film culture and in just culture that are gone. That it's worth looking at and kind of feeling again and going, wow, yeah, that's dead. That's dead as the dodo, as Paul Hunnam would say. And it's just kind of enlightening and emotionally refreshing to encounter them again. So yeah, go see it. It's literally the best film, I would argue, at least in America, of 2023, made in America. So go see it. Yeah.
It's nice to know that like three kind of oddball characters coming together and becoming friends. Like that's something that it's nice so they could still kind of get different things out of it. Like I feel like
nowadays it'd be a podcast, yeah.
Now it's just a limited web series.
Right, exactly.
Kristina, final thoughts.
Divine Joy Randolph, get that Oscar, baby.
Yeah.
I think it's hers to lose.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Who else is nominated? I forgot. Okay.
Bunch of people.
Other people that are not Divine Joy Randolph. So they're going to lose, so it doesn't matter.
Well, Dolomite Is My Name is one of those kinds of movies that I think everyone would have agreed at least at the time, before probably memory holing it was good. And then but it's the kind of movie that would have never gotten nominated for anything.
No.
I totally forgot it. I loved it.
Yeah.
I totally forgot it existed. Which is crazy. I don't normally do that. But
it feels like for her to be plucked out of, well, not obscurity because there's been other things, but plucked out of the ether, I guess, for this because of her role in Dolomite Is My Name, and then if she does get the Oscar, it would be like such a good vindication of that.
Yeah.
Let's see, this real quick. Yeah, the other nominees: Emily Blunt, Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks, Color Purple, America Ferrera, Barbie, and Jodie Foster.
Why did they even try with the Color Purple? I don't understand. It's not getting anything else.
Well, Emily Blunt is also one of the most more forgettable parts of Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I like her.
Yeah, he's married. Yeah, she's like, oh yeah, he's married, isn't he? Like,
and Naiad, of course, which was sort of like the two Leslie of this year, basically gobbled up all the spots May December should have had. So
I will say though, the one thing I like about Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer is she kind of draws from Mickey from Rocky. She's like, she has like a cigarette in her mouth and she's drunk and she's like, come on, Rock. Come on.
Nice.
That's very good.
I can dig it. Yeah.
But Conan, final thoughts.
Yes, a richly humanistic and nuanced portrayal of isolated, broken people helping each other. It's terrifically bittersweet. It is not just set in the 70s, but it feels like the 70s. It's a touching and frequently very funny character study made for adults. And what a treat that is. Giamatti's a great, stodgy, glass-eyed grump who's loathed by everyone, right? And that's I feel like that's his a great comfort place for him. I think just like Sideways, it shows that him and Giamatti and Payne are a great pairing. The whole cast is great. It's complicated. It's the messy nature of connection, loneliness, and engagement. It's cathartic without being cloying. And I will certainly be revisiting this film for many years to come. It's my favorite movie of the year.
We gotta all come back together and review Sideways one day. I feel like that would be fun.
Oh, I love that movie. Thomas Hayden Church is an all-time sleaze in that. He's just the worst. He is the worst, and it's hilarious. He is.
And poor Virginia Madsen made a huge comeback with that film. She was great in it, and then sort of receded and disappeared again. That poor woman. She was beautiful. She was so talented, and it's just like she just didn't get the break. So.
Sandro, she was able to parlay that in some, and she's really good in that too. Although she was in Last Night before that, which
I was gonna say,
she doesn't work. She does.
We would
but
do
I just thought she was gonna be bigger.
Yeah, same.
You do like a Sandra Oh, like a chronology if we do that movie too. And be like,
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Stepping Stone is like.
That's true. Because
But,
I mean, I love it. I love Dominic Miller, but like, yeah, Last Night nobody saw that but me.
I did.
Yeah, well, I know people on this show.
For-
That's right.
for
Yeah,
this-
yeah.
for
They forced
this
us to cover
podcast.
it. Yeah, that's why. Like what? What
But,
movie is this one? There's like 17 movies called Last Night. It's the
Yeah,
Canadian one. Canadian Into the World movie. It's not that hard. It's got the guy from Battlestar Galactica in it. That's how I knew I had Andy.
Oh, okay. I remember that.
But yeah, so we're gonna jump to the after party in a few minutes. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. This is definitely like one of the more enjoyable ones of like even for its length, like it's 2 hours, but like the amount of like twists that it has, and I think are like
Chef's kiss.
yeah.
Chef's kiss.
I don't know why it blew after I said that. I went.